Good afternoon. I hope everyone is still doing fine. Uh, we're still in First Samuel, but we're skipping over to chapter 3. And we're still talking about the purpose in pain. The purpose in pain. But in this particular message, uh, we're going to speak about the pain that many of you are in. And you're in this pain because you don't hear the voice of God. We're going to see in this particular chapter that just because you have a leader leading you does not mean they're leading you the right way. And if you look at the message that we've taught this past week, we talked about Naomi and Ruth. We talked about Ruth and Boaz. We talked about uh, Jesus and the wine. And what we are trying to get you to see, and we mean me and God, is that a lot of times uh, our failure to hear God for ourselves, it puts us in pain often to the people that we associate with, the people that we claim we love, the people that we claim that we respect who they are and what they are. Oftentimes, when you don't hear the voice of God for yourself, it gets you and other people to come into a very peculiar position. It's almost as you're becoming at odds. And one thing that many of you don't want to allow that to happen is, especially is in marriage. One of the things that many couples don't deal with is who is going to take the lead when it comes to nurturing or following God. Uh, so we got to understand when scripture tells us, how can any two walk together unless they agree? A lot of marriages, when in arguments, if you go ahead and agree who's taking the lead as it relates to following God, to the other person get to the lead that they hear God. And even then, you're at a disadvantage because if you don't know who the person you is, they could be manipulating your faith because your faith is really not at their faith. So we in a peculiar position even now uh, in this time uh, of God. Because even with the prophetic people arguing, some hear God, some don't hear God. Even in church, some leaders hear God, some don't hear God. The whole premise or the foundation in this next season is to make sure every individual not only has a relationship with God, but able to regurgitate and speak what they are hearing or what he has shown them with the utmost confidence. No more I think, no more I believe, no more I feel. Is that you got to have the confidence that no matter who or what doesn't hear you, you got to make sure God hears you. So here we go, are First Samuel chapter 3. And it says, verse 1, now the boy Samuel ministered to the Lord before Eli. And the word of the Lord was rare in those days. There was no widespread revelation. So here we see Eli is positioned as Samuel leader. We understand Samuel came from Hannah. So when Samuel came of age, uh, y'all can read the story. Hannah took her to Eli because Eli was the priest in those days. So here he says, the word of the Lord was rare. We got to understand the things that God is speaking is only to a select few. Why is it only to a select few? Because the other people God may be speaking to, they're not listening, God. The other people that's not hearing it is because they in the world. And the third people that's going to hear it is because God says only a remnant gonna be saved. So you got to put yourself in a position and you got to ask yourself, am I following the leader who's leading me to God? That's all you got to say. And it's sad to say, many of you are not. And that it came to pass, verse 2, at that time, when Eli was laying down in his place, and when his eyes has begun to grow so dim that he could not see, and before the lamp of God went out in the tabernacle of the Lord, where the ark of God was, and while Samuel was also laying down, the Lord called Samuel, and he said, here I am. See, as a leader, I have to know what my time up. What we're seeing spiritually, and the reason you see the prophets fighting is because some of you, as those, see, Samuel was called to judge Eli's house. So here, y'all got to read the story. So here, the same man that's going to judge your house, that's the one you got to teach. So the reason the prophets are fighting, because some of the prophets are friends with prophets, friends with leaders, friends with pastors that put so much money in their pocket, they're not going to tell if they wrong, if they was wrong. See, watch this. Let's go back a couple of years with the Eddie Long situation. You gonna tell me Bernice King did God didn't show her what Eddie Long was doing? You gonna tell me that other bishop he comes with the prophetic anointing? God ain't showing them what it. You gonna tell me all those prophets that came through New Birth, God didn't show none of them prophets what Eddie Long was doing? And that's what's going on. It's so much corruption, and the people who's supposed to have the order, convict, rebuke, which is the prophetic force, they have become quiet because they've been bought. They've been bought. Tiffany Montgomery, she rich. She bought her way in the ministry. You can look at her teach that she don't know what she talking about. Me and my friend was talking last night. If anybody, I ain't saying the woman ain't saved just like Celeste. I'm saying she out of order in what she doing. She have more of an evangelistical type ministry. She ain't got no prophetic ministry. If it is, it ain't been developed. Because one thing that you gonna know when you're a real prophet, you will see a prophet before they even born, because the spirit is there. You gonna know one. So here we see that Eli could even do his job. He's supposed to already had something planned. Somebody already was supposed to be in order. But that's why when you see most of these churches, when the leader die, because so much emphasis is on the leader, that's why the church closes. That's why the church just dissipates. It's because nobody put nobody in place, because somebody want to be around because they want all the money. It ain't nothing but a money grab. So here, the priest's job was to keep the lamp lit. So by his eyes being dim, and it says the lamp of God, before the lamp of God went out, he called Samuel. Y'all see that transition? So, because Eli's job was to keep the Lord lamp lit, watch this. It shows Eli was naturally and spiritually bankrupt. He was ineffective. That's why he thought Hannah was drunk. He assumed. And a lot of you under ministries that the leader assume they know who you are. You assume they hear God is no valid proof. So watch this. So here, the scripture establishing before God let his work go out, he'll call another worker. And he called Sam. Sam says, here I am. See, watch this. He didn't say, who is this? He didn't say, hold on, I got something to do. He said, here I am. See, we're in a season that when you hear God's voice, you got to talk back. You got to stand in attention because pretty soon, here comes your instructions. So in verse 5, it says, so he ran to Eli and said, here I am, for you call me. And he said, I did not call. Lie down again. And he went and lay down. Then the Lord called yet again Samuel. Samuel arose, went to Eli, and said, here I am. You called me. I did not call you. Lie down again. Now Samuel did not yet know the Lord, nor the word of the Lord yet revealed to him. And the Lord called Samuel again the third time. So he arose and went to Eli and said, here I am, for you did call me. Then Eli perceived that the Lord had called the boy. Therefore Eli said to Samuel, go lay down, and it shall be, if he calls you, that you must say, speak, Lord, for your servant hears. So Samuel went and lay down in his place. Now watch this. God called Samuel. He ran to Eli. In matter of fact, he ran to Eli each time God called him. How many of you run to your leader when God calling you? See, that's why I teach what I teach. The mistake Eli made, he got this guy so in tune to who he is that he never shows him who God is. Now, let's answer the question. Why many people that I mentor, whoever they are, the first thing I tell you when you come to me, I say, go ask God. Go ask God. Now, some people got frustrated, some maybe get mad, because see, if you're not talking to God, I can't talk to you. See, I ain't like these other leaders. They just want you to come sit down and they go to preaching and you saying, speak, Lord. Ooh, the Lord show you. And the Lord ain't even talking to them. They done got the sermon off YouTube. You know, back in my days, churches I went to, do you know some of the ministers I was under, they would look at TV and go on YouTube and get sermons and come to church and preach. That shows they had no relationship with God. So see, we keep thinking it's man's voice calling us because we got so much honor for a man. Now y'all see why I keep telling you, make sure you hear God's voice. I don't never want you to mistake my voice and God's voice. So it's evident that it says that Samuel did not know the Lord. See, I didn't know God, but he was calling me, and I didn't have no choice to run to him because I didn't have nobody to talk to. So, so what this is showing is that many of you ready for the mission, you just under the wrong ministry because you don't know what you call to do, what you call to say, how God called want you to operate. So here, watch this. It's evident Eli didn't have a relationship with God because Eli couldn't hear God tell him that Samuel was ready. See, that's why I tell many people when they ready for ministry, because I'm just a tutor. I'm just a vehicle that God gifted to know when people ready to do something. If listen here, and I ain't bragging. If I say you ain't ready, you ain't ready. Well, you didn't tell me because God said you ain't ready. Now watch this. If you had heard the voice of God, then you would have said, okay, you right, because God told me I had to do A, B, C, D. See, y'all keep running to people like Eli. They ain't got no relationship with God. They can't hear God no more. So it's obvious God probably fired them. But they in a position without power. See, that's why I keep saying it's about power in this season. About power. And for many of us, we don't understand who God is because he don't know who he is. Ooh, listen to this here. I will even read this. It just came. Hey Dietrich, how are you today? I finally learned to pray the will of God for my life. And now that I haven't felt his presence like this in a long time. It's that feeling of knowing you in the right place. Although I don't know what lies ahead, I know it's better than doing it my way. I hate that I catch on to some things later, but nevertheless, I did. Just had to tell somebody who I knew would understand. Now suppose I send that person a text back and says, you ain't got it yet. They'll be heartbroken on. I think that's what I'm gonna do. They ain't got it yet. Well, why they ain't got it yet? Because I'm reading the message. Why? Well, how you know? I can see the spirit in which the message was written. You got to know when you anointed, you just anointed. See, I remember when I first went to Tallahassee, I think I spooked everybody. I had did that prophetic conference and I was toward the end or something. And I said, this is what I want everybody to do. I said, write down what you need. Don't put your name on me. Just hand it to me. I'm going to know who you are. They gave them papers. I picked them papers up. And when I read what it is, I said, this you. This you. This you. This you. I don't need no names. I was learned to interpret spirits. I was learned to see spirits. So watch this. You can write me, you can write me a nice letter. Or you can send me a text message. It sounded good. They ain't there yet. They ain't there yet. They ain't there yet. See, I didn't come to bust your bubble. I'm just trying to say it's more to God than what you feel and what you know. So just like Samuel, you don't really know God. Watch this. Because if this person really got it, I wouldn't have gotten a text message. That's a secret, y'all. I ain't gonna tell you why I wouldn't have got a text message. I wouldn't have got a text message. I wouldn't have. If you really got it. So a lot of y'all, I used to tell, you don't know God like you think you know him. A lot of y'all been skating. He been overlooking. So here we see Eli went to, because he didn't have no spiritual connection, he went to what he knew. Hey, if you hear that voice again, say, "Speak, Lord, your servant hears." See, that's why I love telling people, don't come ask me, go ask God. You his servant, not mine. You ain't got nothing to prove to me. I love when I see people come to me and try to do something for me, like they trying to get buddy and charming with me, like they proving something. I just be laughing. I don't care how many apples, how many oranges, how many bananas, how many dollars. I just be laughing because I ain't the one you got to impress. I know who I am, what I'm called to do. You got to press the big boy, the one that sit up on that throne. So because Eli hadn't properly trained Samuel, he gave him the direction so the Lord can train him. So when he said, go lay down, that means make yourself available for God. Huh? Not to be presumption that you hear the voice of God. He said, if he calls you again. Because Eli wasn't sure. And if he called you, he said, respond. He said, say, speak, Lord. Your servant hears. That's a beautiful thing. See, I was talking to somebody today about something I was going through and dealing with. I said, I got to make sure that it ain't me. Not Brother Hubbard, the one that know everything, to know. That lets you know you don't know me. I never claimed to know it all. Y'all call me know it all. I know my limitations. I know my setbacks. I know my stronghold. I don't claim to do everything God tells me to do. But if it involves anything that got flesh and blood, I said, let me make sure that I don't follow my own mind. See, a lot of y'all, you quick to speak what the Lord says, but you only make yourself available to God when God gives you something. And so for many of us, we fail at really tapping into the mystery of who God is in our life. It's because we don't make ourselves available to hear God unless we getting something from God. See, it's something that whether God right or wrong, good or bad, some you want to do, some you don't want to do, that you still do what he say in spite of you getting nothing in return. Nothing in return. But we don't do that no more. We just go around, and the only time we show up is when we got a prophetic word. Now, watch this. In verse 10, it says, now the Lord came and stood and called as at other time, Samuel, Samuel, and Samuel answered, speak, for your servant hears. So here Eli put Samuel in a position that he understood that God was talking to him. And a lot of times, many of you don't understand that what I be doing. So when I tell you to go ask God, when I tell you to go pray to God, what I'm telling you, I'm trying to get you in a position that you know without a shadow of doubt that what you're doing of God. We break many rules. Watch the. Ooh, that's a good one. We break many rules knowing we wrong, but yet we only label it wrong if we don't benefit from the wrong that we created. Ain't that something about us? We'll know what we wrong doing it. We'll do it, but if we ain't benefit from the wrong we doing, then we designate it as wrong. We real sneaky. That's why God gives some of y'all these good teachers. We know all the loopholes. You know why? Because we done tried them all. And everything we don't try, God revealed because some loopholes we didn't try because that's not our walk in life to go through that. You know. So here, what we got to see, Samuel, every time God called Samuel and he ran to Eli, what we got to understand, his position changed, watch this, but not his faith. See, because they knew the priest heard the voice of God, their faith was still in the priest of God. We in a season that you got to know if your priest ain't speaking, your prophet ain't speaking, your leader ain't speaking, when you change position, you got to put yourself in a position to hear what God wants you to do. That's why I said we got to hug the curve. Because a lot of people are not listening to God, they're not doing what's right by God. God is changing things, and only the people who are in tune with God understand what's going on. The rest of them, they finna go off the deep end. Going off the deep end. So scripture says, this time the Lord came and stood and called him. See, watch this. God said, okay, since Eli made it his business to get personal with me, I'm going to make my business to get personal with him. So this time, let me come in the flesh. Let me stand here and let me call his name. So now, a lot of you are in a position to hear God better and clearer than you have ever heard him. The problem is, God ain't speaking to your wants. He ain't speaking to your desire. He ain't speaking to your messed up way. So you don't want to hear nothing God got to say unless you benefit from what he wants you to do. And that's a sad way to live. Very sad. So here in verse 11, it's not until God got personal with Samuel that he gave Samuel his assignment. Verse 11 says, then the Lord said to Samuel, behold, I will do something in Israel at which both ears of everyone who hears it would tingle. Ooh. So what he was saying? He said, Samuel, I'm finna give you a word that anybody that hear it, it gonna make them feel what I feel. See, a lot of times when you got a relationship with God and God begins to tell you what to do, especially when it's something prophetic, you just got to feel the spirit of what they're saying because they're not going to show you the emotion behind what they're saying. You got to feel the anger of God. You got to feel the seriousness of God. You got to feel the conviction of God. And a lot of you only feel something when you see some tears. When you see some all them face emotions and all that kind of, ain't nobody got time for that. He says, in that day, I will perform against Eli all that I have spoken concerning his house from beginning to end. For I have told him that I would judge his house forever for the iniquity which he knows, because his sons made themselves vile, and he did not restrain them. See, watch this. That's why God got many of you in your spirit to change leadership. Because watch this. This a young boy. He finna send him against his priest because his priest violated God's oath. And see, for a lot of you, you sitting under the same people you got to rebuke. You sitting under the same people you got to correct. You sitting under the same people you got to pass judgment. Guess what? I enjoyed it when I did it. Boy, they thought they knew more than me because they been preaching for 15, 20, 30 years. Boy, I came in there and I had that confidence, and they come saying something to me, boy, I was just sitting there and I told them every sin they ever did. See, watch this. For I told him that I would judge his house for the iniquity which he knows. See, just because people may not know what you're doing, God know what you're doing. And see, God had already told Eli, I'm going to get you, boy. I'm going to get you. So the very same person that God had to get to Eli to teach him how to hear God's voice. Now, once they hear God's voice, you mean to tell me God gonna turn around and use that against him? He sure will. I told y'all don't know God how you think. God petty? Shh. How petty can you be that a woman give you her son to raise? You raise the son. You teach the son how to hear God, and God turn around and use the son to tear down your house. Got to be more careful. That's the king of pettiness, and that's what y'all want to use. See, it's something that when you know people doing wrong and you in leadership and you excuse it. That's what I was telling my son yesterday. I said, boy, I said, you been getting me. I said, man, you can ask me for anything. I said, but I'll be less than a father if I don't tell you what I see you doing. Guess what? He was bad about he felt bad about what he doing, but he didn't know how to talk to nobody about what he doing, because guess what? He didn't want nobody to feel bad or make him feel worse than what he already feel. He said, Dad, I don't be wanting me to ask you. He said, man, I feel bad because I do. I know my son mind messed up. I just be teasing with him. But watch this. I said, no matter what your mental condition is, I know the right time to talk to you. And I told him, I said, 31 years you've been on this earth. I said, how many times you done heard no that you know of? Dad, you ain't never told me no. You get what I'm saying? But watch this. What's the lesson we got to learn? Why do you think God don't allow us to get everything we want? We'll get complacent. And all I was doing was waking them up. I said, don't never think you embarrassed about asking me. I said, don't never think you asking me too much. I said, but the point is, I'm telling you, look at what you're doing. You know why I ain't mad? You know why I make fun of them? Because I see myself. I see myself. I think I was 36 years old, and my mama was still playing me and my brother with. And y'all got to know a black mama. She came in there one day. You lazy mouth. God dang it, I ain't paying no goddamn rent in here. Y'all men. Pay your own damn rent. She walked out that house and slammed that door. It woke me up. I started paying the rent. Watch this. It wasn't that I didn't have the money. Mama paying the rent. Who cares? Boy, mama get tired too. Now my brother didn't pay. No, he didn't start paying too much rent. I always went around there and paid. It was never what? I think it was $155. God. Down south stuff kind of cheap. But that's a lot of money when you're barely making it. So watch this. I'm saying all that to say this. You can't have people in your presence and they keep doing wrong and you excuse it. See, sometimes you just gotta let them know. Y'all know the word y'all use. Let a heathen know. And let the chips fall where they may. Cause see, you rather put your own house in order instead of doing what God did and send Samuel to judge Eli's house. See, Eli's responsibility, and especially because he was their father, you got to act a certain way. You can't do certain things. But that's like, let's look at the game last night. That's like Deion Sanders and his sons. They think Deion Sanders' sons getting the endorsement deals and all that because they Deion Sanders' son. They don't look at Deion Sanders' son. They putting up the numbers to get what they get. That boy threw 400 and some yards last night. 100 touchdowns. Why wouldn't Nike, watch this, why wouldn't Nike want to give him an endorsement deal for shoes and apparel? Why you think they gave him to Jordan? Why you think LeBron got it? They giving them to people who they see a superstar. And this boy in college. And that Don Travis Hunt, I don't know how he caught that ball. So watch this. Stop looking at people's ministry like they just got it. Just like Samuel. You don't know what God raising them up to do, so you can't judge the way you do ministry, the way you would teach, the way you would explain it. You can't say they wrong. The only way you say they wrong if it don't line up with the word. So Samuel laid down until morning and opened up the doors of the house of the Lord. And Samuel was afraid to tell Eli the vision. Then Eli called Samuel and said, Samuel, my son. And he answered, here I am. And he said, what is the word that the Lord spoke to you? Please do not hide it from me. God do so to you and more also if you hide anything from me of all the things that he said to you. Then Samuel told him everything and hid nothing from him. And he said, it is the Lord. Let him do what seems good to him. You know what the problem is? For a lot of us who claim to hear the voice of God, we don't want to hear the voice of God. Because a lot of times God allows things, God let us experience things, God let us do things just to see in this situation if you're gonna do what God tell you to do. And for a lot of us, we fall in love, we get attached, We want the things that he allowed us to experience, have, or partake of. And then guess what? We stop hearing the voice of God because the flesh and the things of the world begins to mean more to us than hearing the voice of God. So here we see one of the things that many of us fail is that we don't want to tell people what God say to us if it gonna bring hurt to them. So we make excuses. We move a certain way because we rather them get rid of us than to speak what thus said the Lord. And then when we do speak what thus said the Lord, the ones that hear it, now they get mad at you. Now they look at you different. Now they treat you in a kind of way because you messed up their life. You messed up their purpose. You messed up their natural being for wanting to be here. And that ain't the way we supposed to operate. Watch this. So Eli knew he was wrong. He said, if it seems good to God, let it be so. We just got to let it be how it be. It ain't us to change things. It ain't for us to change direction. We got to understand we on a spiritual high alert this season. And if you ain't bringing your spirit up, you bring your spirit down. If you bringing your spirit down, you bringing the people around you spirit down. So verse 19, it says, so Samuel grew, and the Lord was with him, and let none of his words fall to the ground. And all Israel from Dan to Beersheba knew that Samuel has been established as a prophet of the Lord. Y'all remember hearing me saying that the other day? I said, when God really with you, none of your words fall to the ground. Man, it's something when you can get so confident in God. If God told me pigs were gonna grow to be animals, grow to be humans, I said we finna have some human pigs. That's how confident I be. If he said that the trees gonna start walking around and trimming themselves, I'm looking at the wonder because I want to see it. And a lot of us ain't got that confidence. Romans 8 and 31 says, if God is for us, who can be against us? You. Because you really don't want to do what God tell you to do. So when he said none of the words fall to the ground, I was laughing because I was talking to somebody yesterday. And I was on the phone. I said, yeah, that house going to sell by the end of the week. Boom. Somebody gave us an offer. Sometimes having a prophetic of knowing your everyday conversation is prophetic. You can't even joke. You can't even joke. Because your joke will come to pass. That's God establishing who you was. That's what they said. See, a lot of time when people call me and said I said something, and if you did it, what's my first word? I don't remember that. But they remember it. That means I ain't naive. I ain't conceited. I ain't prideful. I forgot what. Listen here. I forget half the time what I say sometimes. That should let you know it come out the spirit because I don't keep up with it. So here we see that because Samuel was already established as a prophet, he put him under Eli to learn his voice. Then he gave him instructions to crush the very kingdom that helped him. Some of y'all gonna feel mighty bad that the same people that taught you who God is, the same people who helped you through the Spirit of God, we got to turn around. Them going the same people that we got to tear down.